Hello and welcome to the World Series of Free Enterprise final table for the Catalite event. So tonight we have 4 racers on this channel. We have 12 racers overall, but we're going to be watching Simbu, Nightdew, Dusty Griff, and Aizen Tiyama. My name is Rex Rule. I'm here with Krim Zanavix. Krim, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Took a little nap earlier to get ready for one of our Scarlet Kitty classics, especially on a Catalite seed, so I'm expecting this to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty smart move to make the early nap strategy. I didn't make that, so we'll see how long I can hold out, but hopefully it'll be all good. I think we should be good. This is the Catalite. This is some pretty difficult flag sets, all things considered. Kind of thought of as the most difficult seed or flag set that we could do that still is somewhat reasonable to be completed within a race format. Is kind of the best way of describing these. And these are 4 real good racers. What are you looking forward to seeing tonight, Krim?
Well, we're already getting a DKC start, which can make the early game very difficult, especially depending on what we have sitting at Mount Ordeals for us. I'm kind of hoping for another weaker early game character, something like maybe Yang, who really can't output a lot of damage until he starts gaining some levels, or even Edward. Both of them would be good options.
Yeah, they would be. They would pose a real good challenge for the early game for the runners, and then it becomes making use of what little items you find in chests in order to get through some early boss spots before you've got those couple levels under your belt that you can actually do something with the characters. But it looks like our runners are off. And so we're going to get some information as to what we're starting with very shortly.
Well, we do have Rydia with Dark Elf sitting in there, and we have an Earth Crystal. So that does give our runners a little bit of benefit, because once they start getting some levels, they can go ahead and head to the Earth Crystal, and that may be a potential location for 2 of our characters. Now, we only get 5 total different characters in this entire seed, and there are no duplicates. So the 5 you find are the 5 you get, and you may struggle a little bit to find that 4th and 5th character.
Yeah, sometimes it takes quite a while to find them. Sometimes they're hidden in really difficult to find spots. The other thing that the Earth Crystal does is it opens up all the treasures in Toria Castle, which could be helpful to find some of those Japanese items that could help with some of the early bosses as well.
Yeah, and we see Dusty immediately running there while our other runners all head into Baron to do some looting. We do see Rosa in the Baron Inn. The only unfortunate thing is Valvalus is sitting there at the guard spot, so that may take a little while before we can actually get through that to get Rosa. So we'll see how long it is before our runners can actually deal with Valvalus that early.
Yeah, I think some of our runners, like Simbu and Dusty Griff, Simbu especially, really studies this game and knows the patterns of or the attack and defense powers in basically all the locations. So if anybody's going to know when it's possible to take on that Valvalus fight, it's going to be Simbu. So you might want to keep an eye on the upper left-hand corner as to when he decides to make that run over there. So. Meanwhile, Dusty is looting that big treasure room, found a strength ring. That'll be nice once Cecil transforms into a paladin.
Yeah, he actually also found a few good armors. I believe a samurai and a dragoon armor or helm or something. So that will give a nice boost to defense as well. And we actually just found an assassin dagger on Simbu's side. So that actually can be pretty beneficial to have on Rydia if you choose to have her as an attacker until she can get some spells.
Yeah, it can be useful. There are certain bosses, the Dark Elves and the like Kaipo guards, for example, that are susceptible to the instant death that the assassin dagger can dish out too. So if we can get that to a trigger, then that could be very useful as well.
Yeah, and we actually did find a second strength ring here in Troya. So we do have good possible damage output, at least from our ring accessory, for a few characters, depending on who our 4th and 5th ones are. Now, the way this game likes to work is we got 2 strength rings, so we'll only have 1 physical attacker.
Yeah, and it's too bad because a character like Rosa, who we know is available to succeed, is often it's very easy to adjust her so that she's a physical attacker with her bows and arrows and everything like that. She can do some decent damage, but she can't equip that strength ring. It would be really nice if she could, because that could be another boon if you're able to get her into the party.
Another item that we did find, and it is very important because we did start with Rydia, is we found the Odin spell. So if we run into any of those bosses that gives us the free boss battles, as you may deem it, with like the Dark Imps or the Baron Guards or anything like that that are susceptible to that instant death, there is a chance that they may be able to use Odin to make that fight a little bit easier, even though there still is that missed chance.
Yeah, that's a definite option with those. The only thing that might be difficult about that is there's a bit more of a charge time when dealing with the summons, and we're going to need to get Rydia leveled up to the point where she has that the MP in order to summon it. So, but other than that, it's definitely something that could happen later on for sure.
So we're going to get our first check here on Hobbs as to who the character may potentially be. Now remember, we are only dealing with 5 total characters, so this could very well be another DKC or Rydia, which would not, yep, and it is another Rydia, so our runners may do this battle for the experience, but they will not be getting another Rydia.
Yeah, and seeing that red hook that Simbu knows that this is going to be that Dark Imps fight. Thought about it for a moment, then figured, like, maybe I could take them on, get some decent experience for this fight. Has that Zeus Rage to take him out. So that got 10 levels on Rydia right there, so that's going to be lots of magic points. We can see whether or not any of the runners decide to go and utilize that Hobbs flag and have her learn yet another summon.
Absolutely. And another good benefit of completing that battle, now we just saw the power staff there, but there are 4 additional chests that the runners may choose to check. Since we are only dealing with an SC flag, which means only cabins in the shops, it is important to note that all of our runners' goods are going to come from treasure chests.
Yeah, it looks like Simbu is going to check probably those chests, but definitely going to check that summon. So we'll see what our runners are going to be able to get.
And it looks like Indra.
Yeah, Indra. So that's going to be a nice source of damage, AoE damage that Rydia is going to be able to deal with for this early game. It's going to really help on the early game of this run, because Dark Knight Cecil, unless you're lucky and find a black sword in a chest, really isn't very useful. So getting a summon that can do some decent damage is definitely going to be a boon for our runners.
Yeah, and a lot of the more troublesome battles, the bosses are weak to it in terms of like Odin and Kinazo and stuff like that. So having Indra there for those fights as well is really nice.
Yeah, I believe that lightning weakness is the most common among bosses. I think that's correct.
So we do have Simbu making a dive into the Antlion Cave. Some runners will elect to put this off until a little bit later, but with the treasure chest having a lot of our source of items and everything, I don't really see this as a bad play, because this will allow them to gain items and still fight a relatively easy boss battle for that experience to get Rydia, especially more of the levels. The levels on DKC, while will help out with a few of the fights, are really worthless, because as soon as you do level up or have Cecil become Paladin and on reveals, he does revert back to level 1.
Right. But I think in other flag sets, more people would skip it. I think we're going to see most of the runners take on the Antlion game for a lot of the reasons that you just outlined. Getting a bunch of chests like that early is very valuable, where in a flag set where you can't buy anything in shops. So these are relatively safe, easy to access treasure chests that I think are just going to be too sweet to pass up. And we see Knight 2 and Eizentayama already getting there. It looks like Dusty is heading right over there as well. So not a surprise here.
Yeah, Dusty did reset out of the Dark Imp battle instead of using the Zeus Rage set or the lit item that we saw earlier. So he will not have the same experience that Simbu has. I'm not sure if Night Dew actually completed the battle, but it might be Simbu as the only one with actually having not only some of the extra spells with Rydia, but I believe EMP for Indra.
Right, I believe that's correct, but I think the other runners are kind of banking on the fact that this is an easy boss in this location, and they will still have that Zeus Rage that Simbu had to use. Ooh. But we find an annoying boss here in that Galvez.
Yeah, Golbez might be interesting here. It all depends. Now, Antlion typically in this spot did not ever use magic, so it will be interesting to see how much Golbez actually does with his spells. He does use higher tier spells, so it will definitely be interesting to see if Rydia or DKC can survive it. Rydia is really the big one because Dark Knight Cecil I don't believe will have enough damage output to really be able to take on Golbez.
Right, and for the other three runners, even if they found things like the diamond armlet, which can help against Golbez's lit spells, that 30 HP that she has at level 1 is pretty bad.
Yeah, she's even taken one shot to a virus at level 11, so definitely going to be an interesting battle for our runners to have to deal with. It looks like Simbu's going to try again with utilizing that assassin dagger, so going to go with straight strength output while Dusty is giving up and going elsewhere.
Yeah, figured not at these levels. Don't want to try to fight it. Maybe if I beat some other fights first, it'll be a lot easier. So right now looks like Izutiyama's getting into the battle portion of the Galvez fight. Let's see if he has any better luck.
We do have Dusty running up to the Fabul Gauntlet now, so we will have another boss here that we may be able to do. Now, he did find a gold apple in the Antlion Cave and gave it to Rydia, so she has a little more HP for survivability in this battle. Now, depending on the boss, it may not really matter, and it is Mom Bomb, so we'll definitely have to see how this one goes. Now, this is where it would benefit to have that AoE spell, so like the Lit Bolt might prove beneficial once Mom Bomb explodes.
Yeah, it looks like they're using one of those Zeus Rages to try to get Mom Bomb to that transformation point first. But it looks like we do see a Darkness Crystal as the reward for defeating Golbez. Izutiyama, the first to achieve that. Ooh, another high roll on that virus spell, and Simbu's Rydia falls again.
Yeah.
That Darkness Crystal is going to be huge, and with Izutiyama, the only one of our 4 featured runners having that could be a huge advantage, depending on how long it takes before the other runners decide to make another stab at Golbez. They might want to avoid going back there until they absolutely have to.
Yeah, Simbu electing to leave for the time being, but not only does the Darkness Crystal give the ability for a lot to open up eventually, but it does give our runners immediate chance at a additional character that they can use, which I believe is the most important part right now with the 2 that we have in hand right at this current moment.
Yeah, it depends on how much they prioritize getting that character, which is only a potential character, mind you, versus the time that it takes to go through the long cutscene to activate the big whale and both trips to and from the moon. That would be the only thing that I imagine would be weighing on people's mind.
Absolutely, and I think they'll try to pair it in with other events as well, so it's not just going up there and then turning around. But there's a very good chance that we will see the moon at some point. Some of our runners may elect to check that because we do have the lunar subterranean bosses in the mix for possible key item spots, and we just got the pink tail from the football gauntlet.
Yeah, so our at least Dusty at this point is going to be keeping an eye out for that hook, because that would be an adamant armor would be his path. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the like activating the big whale is something that almost all of the runners I think are going to be doing. I think it's very unlikely that we're going to see a seed where we're not going to see the moon in play. But is it worth it to go up there and check for the character? You might want to activate the big whale, then make a safety save, then go up there and check the character, and then reset if it's a duplicate. That's one way that you could do it to try to mitigate the time loss if necessary.
Absolutely, and it really depends on how much they believe they can complete with the two characters that they have. Now, we did see Golbez in the Antline Cave, which held the darkness, but what will we see at Fabul? We've already seen Valvalus in the Baron Inn, so if it's the Baron Inn or something difficult on Mount Ordeals, it might be in the best interest for our runners to make a play for an additional character.
That's right, because they could go up there and get rewarded with like an edge, and then suddenly that Valvalus is not scary in the slightest, or a cane, something like that, and then completing that Baron Inn probably isn't going to be tough. But it could be Edward, it could be another Dark Knight Cecil up there, so. Because we do not know.
Yeah, so Simbu is going to be getting his pink tail while we have Dusty Griff going back up to that Dark Imp spot just for the experience. Is able to cast Indra now, so that shouldn't be any difficulty. And Night2 and Aizen are doing their Fabul gauntlets right now, so we will see a lot of Indra going forward for the foreseeable future in this seed until we get a few more powerful spells for our runners.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the notion of fighting those Dark Imps, even though you know that you're not getting really anything other than that little bit of experience, I think our characters are trying, or our runners are trying to level up their characters for a possible run at either Valvalus or Mount Ordeals. Because I think, especially with this Dark Knight Cecil start, the runners are just thinking, I've got to head up to Mount Ordeals as soon as I can.
Yeah, and it's especially beneficial for them because they have already received quite decent items for Paladin Cecil that they can use. But of course, until we get him to that point, it's pretty much all useless since DKC really doesn't have a lot of viability with even his better weapon.
And it looks like Dusty is making that trek up Mount Ordeals. Looks like he's saying, I've had enough of Dark Knight Cecil. I want him to atone and become a paladin. So we're going to see Dusty did not complete the Golbez fight, but did fight the Dark Imps and the Mom Bomb. So has some experience under his belt. We'll see who these bosses are up here, whether or not they're going to be, what level of challenge they're going to be, basically.
Yeah, and it looks like Simbu is making the same play up to Ordeals. Now, one item that we found on the climb of Ordeals is the Gaia Drum, which is huge because that casts Quake, and that can really be an item that saves run, especially when we have bosses like Bahamut.
Yeah, I mean, that Indra is going to do some good work against the Bahamut, but Dark Knight Cecil doesn't have much that he can do right now. So if it comes down to it, we might see that Gaia Drum if we're getting close to that countdown of the Bahamut, and the Indra hasn't quite taken it out yet. So that's what it's really going to be close to here, I think.
Yeah, and Dusty is using that Gaia Drum, 700, so you're figuring about 700 per shot, so around 5 attacks will take Bahamut down. And he's making good use of the run buffering to sort of stop Bahamut's turn from ticking while he is making selections. So he's able to get just those few extra attacks out before Bahamut uses his Mega Nuke.
Yeah, had to burn an ether on this fight too, so that Rydia can get another cast of Indra. But it was just enough, and Dusty able to take down the King of the Dragons.
Yeah, we'll see Simbu make a similar play, about the same damage output, so it will have to be something uh, extremely close to what Dusty did. We'll have to utilize that Gaia Drum as well. I expect similar strats from most of our runners, just because that's really cutting it close, even with all that damage.
But that's like one of the things where you can tell that these are top tier runners. Like they recognize almost immediately, like I need to use this Gaia Drum because I'm not going to be able to finish this battle without it. And they're doing this on their first try. They didn't need a test run out.
Yeah, and we do see Odin at the Milan Z spot. So once again, great use of Indra here. You'll see a much higher damage output, especially if Odin would get to the point where he raises his sword, but I don't think it's even getting out. One shot from Indra.
Yeah, so Simbu got a bit of a low roll on the second one and didn't use that ether to refill her magic. I'm not sure if he found it like Dusty did. So he's going in again, adjusting the battle speed, trying to make that countdown go a little bit slower, and we'll see if he has better luck this second time.
So Dusty did make it through Odin. We're going to see what the item is up here, and more importantly, Dusty is going to get Paladin Cecil, which is going to give him a lot more attack potential coming up. So his seed should open up quite a bit, especially depending on what item we get. And it is a magma key, so we have our underground access.
So anyone hoping for a hook seed, sorry for you tonight. So yeah, Dusty has lots of options as to where he wants to go next. So he could go back to fight Galvez. He could go to the Baron Inn and try to get Rosa. He could cash in that Earth Crystal and try to get some characters up at the top of the Tower of Zot. Or he can start checking the underground locations too. There's so many places.
Absolutely. At least we got one thing we wished for. We got the football gauntlet at DKC.
Yeah, this is going to be a most annoying fight. It's not going to be particularly dangerous, but it's going to take some time.
Now we have our other three runners up on ordeals. Simbu's still trying to arrange his party correctly to be able to take down Bahamut. Aizen currently in the battle with Bahamut, and Naitu about ready to start, so we'll see if any of our other runners can make it.
Yeah, Aizen might have a little bit of an advantage here with the extra experience from that Galvez fight that the other runners don't. I think that might be another casting of Indra in the bank without having to use that ether that Dusty burned.
Looks like he still will only be able to get 2 casts off, 85 MP, and Indra costs, I believe, 30 per shot.
Well, if that's the case, then maybe it won't be an advantage.
And it also seems like Aizen's Rydia is rolling about 200 points of damage lower with his Indra spell.
Yeah, it might be the difference of having something like the Assassin Dagger equipped rather than like a Thunder Staff or something like that. Just that little boost of the black magic stat that the rod gives might be causing that difference in damage.
So Simbu is through Bahamut, and Dusty is completed with the Fabul Gauntlet, so he will be able to progress on. I'm expecting to see him make an immediate dive underground. Maybe to check out a few of those free spots, the Land of Summon Monsters, and visiting Yang for sure. Also, we'll be able to peek at what the 2 summon bosses are in the Land of Summon Monsters.
Yeah, the advantage of that is you get that one free key item check there. The disadvantage is, like, at this point, I don't think Dusty expects to be able to beat either of those bosses down there. So he might want to wait until he's at a higher level, so only make one trip down to that summon monster place. That's the the racing aspect of it. And it looks like he's heading north to Baron, so he might be trying that Valvalus fight. And Simbu using that Indra, probably going to one-shot the Odin, yep. Yeah, that lightning elemental summon is definitely going to be useful for everybody in that second fight there. Odin is going to be kind of a chump, whereas Bahamut, you see, the thing is, on that ordeals, usually the first boss is much easier than the second one, but in this case, that Bahamut is a much bigger challenge than Odin is with this current party lineup, so that's really interesting.
Yeah, one of the benefits of Odin is he's more of a straight physical attacker, and the Mylon Z-Spot doesn't have super high attack, so they can survive one or two hits that you get from just having that slowness on the back attack, and you don't really have to worry about him getting to his Odin attack.
Question in the chat from Eternal Newbie, just in case anybody else is. Why is Simbu equipping the Assassin Dagger in the menu, then changing to the Charm Rod in battle? The Assassin Dagger gives a boost to the character's agility, and that agility becomes set once the battle is entered. So her relative agility for that battle is going to remain the same once the battle is started. Then he can switch to the Charm Rod to get the bonus to her black magic stats, so her spells do more damage. So it's kind of getting the best of both worlds. By equipping that dagger and then changing it in the middle of the battle.
Yeah, and Dusty apparently didn't have much luck with Val, so immediately heading to the well to drop the Magna Key in. So we're going to have a Kratom, we're going to have an underground dive, it looks like.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Night Dew, I think, was having too much difficulties with that Bahamut fight as well, so is trying another strategy, heading over to the castle of Eblin to get some loot and some possible experience levels there, because there are 3 trap chests within that castle, and if he's found hourglasses, then that could be some nice experience there. He was able to find a black sword, which is going to make Dark Knight Cecil considerably more powerful, because it does give a bonus to all of his stats.
So we have Simbu currently on the Gauntlet. We have Aizen going to be heading into there very shortly, and we do have Land of Summon Monsters dive from Dusty. So we will be able to see what key item and the 2 bosses that we may potentially have to face here. Now, it could actually be beneficial depending on what characters or what bosses we get down there, because if we get a free boss such as King Queen Eblin, who may not actually pose any sort of threat, then that will at least be one potential thing that we can take care of really quickly. And we did get the Twin Harp from the free chest here, so we may have music in a little bit.
Yeah, that would be a real nice thing to get. That's a nice bonus. I always go into a seed hoping that we're going to get that music.
Yeah, as the viewer, I always hope for a Twin Harp seed. As a runner, not so much, just because it is a little bit of a time sink, but the music is so well done that worth.
So it looks like, was that Kinazo and Octomam?
Yeah. So 2 losses. You'll see.
Yeah, I think those are going to be I think those are going to be a couple of difficult bosses to handle at this point in the run. So it looks like everybody is now past that Bahamut fight, which was giving some of our runners some trouble early, so that's good. Everyone's catching up. Dusty now doing some more looting in the underworld while he's here. It'll be curious to see what he decides to make as his next choice when he actually decides to enter another dungeon and fight another boss. Knight Do using that Indra to show Odin who's boss. Very nicely done. And Dusty is going to visit Yang without the pad, so there's a decent chance that Dusty's going to be making another dive into the Sylph Cave later in the run. But just going down here now will enable him to get another potential key item out of Sheila over in Kabul right now, should he decide to go there. Which I'm guessing if he made the time to go down there, he's probably going to check that. And then we might see if he decides to go to probably either the Tower of Zot or the Cave Magnus next. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Zot, because I don't know what he thinks about his party's capabilities of dealing physical damage at the bottom of that cave magnet right now.
Yeah, he may also value one over the other. We got the Luca key here, so that's nothing we're going to be visiting right away. But he may also value the fact that a trip to Zot would also potentially get him 2 additional characters rather than just the 1 key item that you would get from Cave Magnus. So there's a little more value in Zot as well.
Well, I think it's doubly so in this case because that those characters might be able to be more physically in mind, and that boss at the bottom of Cave Magnus has a really strong magic defense, and so that means that Indra that we've been leaning on so far in this is probably not going to be very effective in that fight. So, it looks like Dusty's actually going to be heading back and going to try to get some levels on Cecil by defeating Golbez.
And we do have Eisen summoning the Lunar Whale, so I wonder if we are going to see a quick trip up there to see the character, or if it's only because he was down in the area, so he figured to summon it. No, he is debating it, but it looks like he is taking a trip to see who the character.
And didn't make a safety save, so we're going to see a couple animations regardless. So let's cross our fingers for Eisen that this is not a duplicate character.
Simbu is making the dive to Yang as well right now, so we'll see if he elects to go ahead and head right to Sheila, or if he is going to take the path to Golbez as well then. Taking the path to Golbez actually isn't a bad decision right now because you won't have to deal with this Shadow Dragon taking anything, and we have Rosa on the moon, so it is a duplicate of what we already saw, but it is a much easier way to get Rosa than going through Valvalis.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is going to be a very good thing for Eisen overall. This is going to make when Eisen picks up that Twin Harp and now the option of going to Cave Magnus with an archer like Rosa is a lot better than just with Cecil and Rydia. So there's that option that's open. Rosa can often, if she gets some levels, can have access to that Berserk spell, which can help break the tornado form of Valvalis, and I believe the aim command can help with that Valvalis fight as well. So all things considered, this is going to be a very good thing for Eisen.
Yeah, we also have quite a few good arrows in our possession. Now, we haven't found an additional bow yet, so we're still stuck with the short bow, but having those additional arrows that can do a little bit more damage output than iron arrows will also be a little beneficial.
Yeah, the fact that we're still running on the short bow is a bit unfortunate, though.
And Dusty does get through his Golbez fight without much issue this time around. 7 levels for Cecil, which, every little bit helps at this moment. But it will get him his Darkness Crystal as well.
Yeah, and so if he elects to go up to the moon, he'll be able to get his Rosa as well.
We're going to have Antlion plays here from both Simbu and Knight Do. So they will as well, if they can get through Golbez, be receiving their Darkness Crystals.
Yeah, at this point, we were seeing how much damage that Golbez was doing with the virus spell at the beginning of the run, and it wasn't very much. At this point, with even a level 1 Cecil has 600 HP, so it's not going to be very difficult for either of them to take care of Golbez at this point.
No, and we did see Nightdew equip the Fire Sword on Cecil. That's going to help out a little bit because Golbez does have a weakness to fire, so that will help make the fight just a little bit faster. Not that it should be too dangerous from the damage output that we saw Golbez have earlier.
Yeah, but if you've got a method to try to make it faster, might as well use it, right?
Oh yeah, when you're racing, try to do everything as fast as possible.
Yeah, that's why it's a race. Unfortunately, that means that nobody, even Eisen, while looting this storeroom in Tomra, because we're racing, doesn't have time to talk to the employment board, my favorite NPC in the game. So,
yeah, the NPCs are always great when you're casually going through a seed, just because the stuff they say is so entertaining.
Yeah, well, one of the two dwarfs in that room has a random occupation on every seed, so check that out every time you're doing it. That's my recommendation. Looks like Eisen is opening up the trap chest in the path to the land of summoned monsters. Found where that warrior chest is, and now can open every other chest in there freely and have access to that much more equipment. And so that's one option that you can do. It does take more time, but it does give you some more choices as to what you can use. And so Eisen must be thinking at this point in the run, still needs a little bit more stuff. And a big part of getting to that next level of this randomizer is determining when you don't need more stuff. And so I'm trusting Eisen that he needs more stuff.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest things is I always need more stuff unless I'm ready to just go up to the final fight. I'm always for some reason checking chests. Probably one of the reasons I don't perform nearly as well as some of these runners. So if anything good came out of this looting in the path to the land of summoned monsters, it was definitely that cat claw that we just got. So if we have a Yang, at least we have one good claw for him.
There was also a dwarf axe, which does have some interesting properties that could be useful at the end game. One thing to note about the Catalite flag set is we don't have the -AA flag, referred to as agility anchor.
Yeah, so we because we do have Cecil in the seed, we are going to be basing everything off of his agility for the remainder of the seed. So being that he can equip that dwarf axe, that may benefit us in the Golbez fight to help get his agility to where we may need.
Yeah, so, and this would be another thing where you'd see somebody do like what Simba was doing with that assassin dagger earlier. Might have Cecil start the fight with that dwarf axe and then switch it to a more powerful sword. But that agility, that relative agility that the party and that Zeramis would have is already set. So the fact that dwarf axe gives, I believe, -10 to the agility could be very useful in that final fight.
Absolutely, and we just saw a check from Dusty on Valvalis, and he was still not able to break through that tornado form. So we will not be seeing what the Baron Inn holds for us, but it looks like he may be doing a quick check on some of these chests in Eplin Castle.
Yeah, I mean, we did see Nightdew go up here earlier and get rewarded with the black sword, but now that we've got a paladin Cecil, that black sword is not something that we need.
So it looks like all of our characters have made the trip to the moon to pick up Rosa as well, so at least they have a third character in their party.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who makes the plunge into a new place now, because we've got the Sealed Cave available. We have the Dwarf Castle available. We have Magnetic Cave available. We have Tower of Zod available. There's lots of places that people can try. And we see over here on Dusty's screen, he equipped Cecil with a bow and arrow and then unequipped him right away. This sets what's called the back row glitch. Basically, there's a property that when you equip a bow and arrow or a whip or a harp or a boomerang, something that you can get the same damage from the back row, it sets this property on your character when you equip it. Now, when you unequip it, the game doesn't know to turn it off. So all you have to do is equip that bow and arrow, then take it off, and now for the rest of the game, Cecil's going to be doing the same damage from the back row that he would from the front row. So that's something that you're going to see runners do with characters who are able to equip those back row weapons, even if they're these heavy-armed melee characters like Cecil.
Now, Dusty was able to get off the Odin spell against his Mad Ogre, so he did get the experience, some good levels there for Cecil and Rosa, so able to benefit a little bit. I did not see what item was gotten from that battle, but typically in our trap chest we do get slightly better items, so...
I think of it more like that you get the potential for a better item.
Yeah, there have been seeds where I've gotten whistles out of our trap chest, so yeah, that is for sure correct. And we do have a twin harp from Simbu, so we're going to get to hear a little bit of good music in a little bit here.
Yeah, and because of these low levels that we're going into this, Simbu is actually going to make a safety save before fighting this boss. I think that's a smart move here.
So I think Dusty is contemplating what he wants his next move to be. As you said, there's really two viable places right now, the Earth Crystal and Twin Harp. So we'll see which direction he chooses to go while we're going to get our music.
Yeah, everybody get ready for DJ Spoony B's Rockin' Tunes.
Oh, so we got some Kakariko Village from Legend of Zelda.
To the past, right?
Yeah.
I think Zelda music is uniquely suited to the harp.
Yeah, it definitely works well here. So the other thing is, who are we getting? We are getting the Magus Sisters here.
And we see Simbu making a quick scan to see if, I'm guessing to see if he's got, checking to see if he's got mute arrows available, because they would do 4 times damage on the Magus Sisters.
Yeah, the mute arrows actually would probably make really, really quick work of all 3 of them. But we're seeing decent damage output there from Mindy, so it looks like he may be electing trying to take her out first to really mitigate the damage that she does.
Yeah, I think, especially since the character's damage output isn't great at this point, trying to deal the damage to Cindy, who has the highest HP of any of the sisters, at first is going to be a tough task to do. So instead, focusing on Mindy and then giving yourself a little bit of time to try to take out Cindy while the Magus Sisters are recovering is probably the plan. But I think, yeah, Simbu has to reset here too. That was just those 2 first Delta attacks taking out both Rosa and Rydia made it really difficult for him to have a chance at that point. And he doesn't go to a safety save. He says, no, this one's too difficult. I've got to try something else first.
Yeah, looks like He's heading toward the Dwarven Castle. Now, I'm not sure if he's planning on taking the battles here or if he's going to do a little looting to see if he can't find potentially some better equipment.
Yeah, and that could be there. It could be both. He might check the loot and then make a save and fight the bosses. He might just try the bosses, and if they're able to be beaten by... He's got Indra, so... And looks like the first... Oh, he didn't like the sight of that first boss, or maybe he did and he wants to save first, but we'll see.
Reset so quickly, I wasn't able to really gather who it was.
I thought it looked like it was the Baron Guards, but I wasn't 100% sure. And so that would kind of depend on whether or not he's got something like an hourglass, or if he can get off that Odin summon before it goes off. If that is in fact who it was. But he looks like he's looting now, so might check it again after he's got all the equipment. Like that crystal armor is going to make Cecil a lot tougher.
Yeah, I would always be in favor of finding crystal armor in one of these seeds.
Yeah, it's really good until Rosa learns Berserk, and then you'd probably want to... I'd prefer Dragoon armor after that, since crystal armor makes you immune to Berserk. So yeah, after doing that looting, heading back there, and it's going to try fighting these fights here. And this is going to be the way... Basically, I think at this point, Simbu is kind of doing what Dusty is doing and trying to get the experience. But Simbu's plan... could be even more rewarded if the character here is somebody new, and if it ends up being a decent key item.
Absolutely. Now, it is actually the typo fight. So there are, of course, 4 soldiers you're fighting here, but there is, if you're able to take out the officer in the back, you actually don't have to worry about the soldiers because they'll start attacking themselves. But with their HP so low, taking out the soldiers, if you're not too worried about the experience, may be the better benefit because the officer will just retreat afterwards.
Yeah, the other thing is Riddy is equipped with the Assassin Dagger here, and so we're seeing the swoon effect happen on these fights, so that's going to be his plan of using these. The other option would be to use Odin, but using cover to defend the characters with Cecil and the Assassin Dagger to take out even the officer in one shot. Gonna get plenty of experience for this fight. Gonna get Rosa up to a decent level, gonna get Cecil some more levels. This is gonna be very good for Simbu.
Yeah, getting that swoon immediately on the officer definitely paid off there. So 21,000 experience is definitely going to boost his levels quite a bit. So we're going to get potentially our 4th character here, but we will have to get through another battle then as well.
We've got some other people doing things. Dusty is now able to do some damage to Valvolus, and we have Nightdew up in the Tower of Zot fighting the trap chest flame dog fight. So we've got a lot of divergent paths here. Oh, here are those Baron Guards that I was talking about.
Yeah, they're still hanging out. Another technical non-boss bit flag, so they are susceptible to instant death and the like. So it looks like actually using Titan, which isn't bad because the Quake will take them out pretty quickly.
Yeah, getting to the second fight here in the in Dwarf Castle does turn Rydia into an adult and gives her all her base summons, and that does include Titan, and so that's now an option that she has for the rest of the run.
So Dusty is able to get through Valvolus, and we will be able to see who the second is, and it's Lugae. So we have to get through Dr. Lugae before we find out what item we have here.
Yeah, that's got to be relief after how difficult that Valvolus fight was. Dr. Lugae, in comparison, is generally a much easier fight.
And wow, a lot of benefit here in Dwarven Castle. We have the crystal.
Yeah, Simbu is in go mode. He's got the darkness crystal, he's got the crystal, he just needs the levels now, so
Yeah, so it will be interesting to see what plays he makes. He still only has 3 characters, so we'll see if he makes a play to somewhere like the Earth Crystal to check if there's any additional characters there. Well, it's definitely doable with enough patience and a good strategy to go at it with 3 characters. Having additional characters would definitely help. So we'll see what plays Simbu decides to make.
he also has 7 key items, so he might be making a run to try to get to 10 key items. Looks like Dusty finding an Artemis bow is the reward for all the work that he did in the Baron Inn, so that's going to be upsetting. Looks like Simbu's probably going to be making that play too. It does make Rosa's physical ability a lot better with the best bow in the game, but at this point, the runners are going to be hoping for key items, not equipment out of the key item locations.
Yeah, especially for Simbu, because key items is what he's going to really be diving for to get himself to 10 there. In addition, Rosa is looking to be our source of healing, and the Artemis bow is something that you don't want to equip when you're healing because it does take away stats from your will, which actually determines the amount of healing that you do. So having the Artemis bow equipped actually would not be beneficial for Rosa if she is going to be our healer.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be unlikely that with this current party setup, that the Artemis bow would be equipped throughout the bulk of the Zeramis fight, because it looks like Cecil would be the main damage dealer, Rosa would be the healer, and Rydia would just kind of be there. But we'll see. Like, I think I would imagine most of the runners, if they were able to get to the levels required, would be happy with completing the seed with just Cecil and Rosa. That said, they need to get the levels there, and one of the things on Cataseeds is you can't turn on random encounters, so you can't just grind wherever. You've got to open up trap chests or fight bosses in order to get experience. And so every fight matters, and so getting to the 10 key items where you get double experience is very important. And so I think that's why we see Simbu going in here, even though it's just that the second fight here doesn't even give experience, and the first one doesn't give very much. It's still something that there is a key item potentially here, and so that's what he's fighting here for.
Absolutely, and it is important to note that, of course, our shops are vacant of all but cabins, but if our characters do find a siren somewhere in their exploration, they can still use that. That will still summon a battle, but as you said, the random battles that include the trap doors in the Luca cave or the sealed cave just do not exist, so they are not going to be a source of experience at all.
Right, and if they are able to find a siren and they want to use it, they're going to want to have 10 key items before they use it so that they can get the most out of those sirens as well.
So we see one of our characters up in the Tower of Zod, and it is a duplicate Rydia, so we still are only going to be at a maximum of 4 characters, depending on who the other one is here.
Yeah, the characters are definitely stingy in this seed, that's for sure. We do see Simbu heading up to the moon, might be trying to find the key items while he's up there and grinding at the same time.
Well, that's big. We got a Fusoya.
Yeah, that's huge. Then at that point, you could rely on Fusia as your healer, equip the Artemis bow to Rosa to your heart's content, and just let her wild with the archer.
Yeah, so that play, while maybe a little time consuming and it might not net exactly what he wants, getting Fusoya is definitely a big boon, especially when Fusoya already comes equipped with Nuke.
Yeah, that's gonna just make, like, Indra made a lot of the earlier fights a lot easier. Nuke makes the rest of the seed even like an easier degree than Indra did early part of the seed.
So Night Dew will actually have one additional benefit of clearing out some of these spots, and that is going to be unlocking both HP and spells with Fu. So right now, Fusoya is at 1300 HP, so that means there are 6 boss battles until he fully unlocks Fu's full potential. So we will see him clearing out some additional battles, and he gets the tower key for his troubles there.
Yeah, so having the tower key makes the Tower of Babel be a very potentially really enticing place for Night Dew, because there's 2 bosses in there to power up Fusia and a potential of 2 more key items. And remember, only Simbu knows where the crystal is of the 4 runners that we're seeing right now. So I think we're going to see not much of a priority on the Dwarf Castle, especially not on Night Dew.
So we see Yang here at one of the spots, and his damage output is low enough to where Cecil can survive through that second kick and take Yang out with the instant little flag there. And we do get an Avenger here. So that is going to be big, because Crystal Armor for our runners, if they find that Avenger, no longer matters. We also get Legend Sword.
And it's another place where it's like, if you wanted to start the fight with that Dwarf Axe, as we were talking about earlier, then once the battle starts, we can equip that Avenger, get that free Berserk, have all the benefits of the Crystal Armor. This is a really good find for Simbu. I mean, I think that Simbu still probably would have preferred key items. However, it's hard to say no to that. It does look like Dusty was able to beat those Maggot Sisters and got a rat tail for his problems, too. So Dusty's going to really hope for that hook.
Yeah, so we have the evil wall here. Simbu immediately electing that he does not like the speed and the damage output, doesn't believe he'll be able to do much with this party, so he's going to go check another spot. For what you would typically be dealing with, his party is actually relatively low level for a lot of these fights, so it does take a lot of strategy to be able to get through these fights. Some of these trap chests may help as well, depending on if he can get through them, which the Warlock and the Dragon Fossil are pretty much saying no to that.
Well, it's tough because they could probably, like Cecil with that Crystal Armor and Avenger Sword, could do some work. Might be able to do this, but he's not getting any experience on his mages for this.
And we do see Night Dude just taking out some of these easier bosses, the Demus spot here at the Octomon spot, just to get those few extra Fu levels. Already got White as well and Exit, so really beneficial for him to have Fu. Going to be facing Leviathan here, which will not be a problem at all.
Yeah, also by completing the Tower of Za, he got Exit for his Rosa too, so that's a nice little bonus as well that Night Dew has.
We have the elements at Ogopogo's normal spot. So another interesting battle looks like Simbu elected not to go ahead and fight him though.
Yeah, that's a pretty high HP spot. And even if the Mylon Z portion of the fight isn't dealing a whole lot of damage to him, once it gets into the Rubicon spot and he has to deal with Fire 2, Fire 3 Glare, that's going to do a lot of damage, I think.
Yeah, right now, Simbu is going to try to protect his party a little bit from all these counters that Behemoth is going to be dealing with every single attack. We'll see if Cecil's able to get enough attacks off. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like his damage output will be enough. So may have to reset it again.
Yeah, this is the tough thing of trying to take on these moon fights at such a low level. Damage output that the enemies can do is just so much. Even if Cecil's got this top tier equipment, it's just the stats on these monsters are just so strong.
Yeah, at this point, if you're Simbu going through these fights, really what you're hoping for in one of the trap chests would be like the Warlock and the Carry, and hope that you still have an Hourglass in your inventory so you can just stop them.
Or if you can get off the Odin summon from Rydia fast enough on that one.
But it looks like we're going to be checking the Crystal Sword spot here, so we'll see if we have a reasonable boss. And I don't believe Simbu has access to wall yet, so Asura is not reasonable without Asura, or without a wall.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty tough play, because I think Simbu had a pretty big lead coming when he decided to go to the moon, but his inability to fight bosses might give the other runners a chance to catch up here, as they're gaining more experience by fighting more bosses on the blue side.
Yeah, we actually see Aizen up on the moon and chose to go into the lunar path to fight the trap chest in there, which actually gives a decent amount of experience, so that will help him a little bit with just gaining that little bit extra to help get him kickstarted for some of these moon battles.
Yeah, but I think the Nightdew and Dusty, who have completed the Tower of Zot now and have Fusia in their party, might be at an advantage for the rest of the scene.
Yes, having Fu make something like maybe running into Asura very trivial. Nightdew, if he were up there, would probably have access to wall at this point with Fusoya, so the Asura fight would be very much more manageable in that situation. And not really sure if Simbu will be making a play to run back down to Earth, the Tower Dot with the Earth Crystal, or not, but really that may be something that becomes a huge boon for Dusty and Nightdew, even though they still do not have that crystal.
Yeah, I agree, and that Asura fight is a perfect example. Like, that's one that Nightdew and Dusty are going to have no problem once they see, but at this point, Simbu just has to reset it. Just doesn't have the resources. He made a gamble to come up here early, and it could have paid off. If he had a few fights in boss spots that he was able to take out early, and got to that 10 key items, he might be just in the grind and almost ready to go to Zeramus by now. It didn't turn out that way for him, so this is giving our other runners a chance to come back. Rubicon here could be a difficult fight as well.
Yeah, just the speed of Rubicon at this spot with being able to get to Glare really, really quick and take out a character almost immediately is something that Simbu just... It looks like Simbu's deciding he doesn't want to deal with it. It's going to head back down to the blue planet to maybe go and find other avenues to research.
Yeah, and that's going to be... That just means that he did fight that one fight that got him the Legend Sword Avenger, where he found the Karate Man. Other than that, everything else that he did on the moon was basically a waste of time. And so he's kind of giving up a little bit of that advantage that he had for finding the crystal early. So now he's just, like, his advantage is still that we still haven't seen any of the other runners head to that dwarf castle to get the crystal yet. As long as they still don't go there, Simbu's still in a good spot.
Yeah, Dusty's making the same play that Nightdew did. They're both heading up the lower portion of the Tower of Babel. We saw DKC at the Dark Imp spot. I actually like that play from Nightdew. Normally, you'll see players go all the way to the top and then hit the Dark Imp spot on the way down to just in case they find like the crystal or something to avoid that cutscene at the end. But getting those extra spells for Fu and a little bit of extra experience is actually nice going up the tower, especially if you're still trying to get the 10 key items and you're going to want to do it anyway. Doing that little bit of extra might help going in. And we see King and Queen Eblon are at Rubicant's spot, so we won't be seeing that battle at all, but we will be having a lunar boss up here.
Yeah, the other thing that might be useful about fighting that tower key room fight first is that if you're going to be, it turns out that the boss is very difficult, and you're just scraped by, you might have to actually do another heal before that relatively easy fight at the tower room, and that's just more time as well.
And we do have the D-Lunars here, which is an interesting fight in itself. Nightdew has enough between Fusoya and Rydia once he wipes her to be able to damage them without having to worry about them doing their counter wall and their virus. And we see the same thing from Dusty here with the Quakes and probably Titan.
Yeah, well...
or Indra.
I think Dusty has, yeah. I don't think he has Titan, yeah. Well, Simbu's the only one with Titan at this point. But, yeah, the fact that they were able to pick up Fusoya, like, this would be a much more difficult fight for Simbu than it is for Nightdew and Dusty. Although it won't be a tough fight for Simbu for too much longer since he's just about done with the Tower of Zot and will be having his Fusoya. Now we do see Nightdew had used the reflect strategy, and we see the lunar frogs because the breath attack that the lunars have is reflectable, and so once that hits, those lunar dragons are pretty harmless.
Yeah, the reflect strats on the lunar bosses is one of my favorite little nuances about the game, that they are able to turn into frogs themselves.
And before Free Enterprise had no idea that was even...
I think before Free Enterprise we had no idea a lot of this stuff was possible. Just because you're never in that setting.
Yeah, this randomizer makes you look at this 25-year-old game from a totally different angle, and it's just fascinating. All the things that come out of it that are actually in the game, you just never see it. And these lunar frogs are wonderful.
The other nice thing about these lunar bosses up here, this spot does give a nice little deal of experience, so his Rosa and Rydia will start getting into a little more comfortable areas of HP as well. So we're starting to see the experience progression go up ever so slightly.
Yeah, and now it's a big question is going to be how much is Simbu going to do before heading back to the moon as well? And seeing this tower key, is he going to make the play to the tower like Nightdew and Dusty are, or is that one more key item that gives him what, I think 8 or 9?
I believe he's at 8 now, so tower would actually be an excellent play just in case there were 2 key items up this way.
I believe he's actually at 9 right now, so he might do a half tower. We'll see.
Yeah, we did see the spoon at the top of the tower, so that would be his 10th key item if he elects to go directly there.
Absolutely. If he does, we know that he'd get to that 10 key items by going to the top. But he might want to save time and do a half tower run, not have to deal with the boss at the top. and see if we can get that 10th key item, and we'll see if that'll work. The Sand Ruby is the reward for the tower key one, so if Simbu decides to just commit to a half tower, not only would he get that 10th key item, but he'd have a potential for a 5th character, and we'll see if that is another character, as Dusty is going to cash in that Sand Ruby right now. Although the citizens of Kaiko do not want him to go to that.
And it is not Rydia.
Just another duplicate. Very stingy with the characters in this scene. Very stingy.
Yeah, we're actually very limited in places where that last character can be. I know we still have the Bear Castle, we have the Evelyn Cave, we have, of course, the Giant of Babel, and
the package.
And the package has our 4 remaining spots. And it does look like Simbu is electing to do the top of the tower first. So, going to be getting a little bit more experience here, which is always nice.
That might have been the determining factor as to what top or the middle that he goes to. He's like, I also need experience, so I'm just going to go ahead and fight whatever boss is at the top. And especially with Fusi in the party, he probably figures it doesn't matter what it is, I'll be able to. We do see both Dusty Griff and Night Dew now in the Dwarf Castle, which means after they complete these fights, they will get that crystal and be in go mode as well.
Yeah, Simbu's fight is going to be a little interesting here up with the D-Lunars, because he has the Avenger on Cecil, so they did get their wall, and they are going to be bouncing viruses. Luckily, it doesn't seem to be doing a ton of damage to where it's just one-shotting characters, but it will be interesting to see if he's able to get off enough DPS to take them out before they take out any characters.
Yeah, luckily this spot doesn't have a super high magic stat, so being able to eat those viruses is a possibility. Although it does look like Rosa took a fall there.
Is able to get through it though, so that is going to be Simbu's 10th key item. So we will see double experience on every single battle from here on out. Also able to get his food to full power, so I believe both him and Dusty are at full power now. Night Dew maybe as well. I would assume so because we saw him do like the Mist Dragon spot and everything.
Yeah, Night Dew's at 1900 HP for right now. Night Dew's got a full power as well.
We see he's in fighting the Flame Dog, so that means he is making his play on the Tower Zot. He will be rewarded with food as well here shortly. But I think both Dusty and Night Dew will be very relieved to see their crystal. Just quickly counting, that will make 10 key items for Dusty Griff, but I believe Night Dew will still be 1 item short at this point.
Yeah, that's the same count that I've got here, currently. The Simbu is fighting the other one, so he's going to get that Sand Ruby as well.
Yeah, I expect to see him make a play. Of course, this is always a good idea to do this battle just because of the experience and the limited experience elsewhere. But I do expect to see him make the check on the Sand Ruby, only to be disappointed by another Rydia, but won't hurt to check just for that potential for the 5th character.
I wouldn't have been surprised if Simbu skipped this and went straight to the moon and started grinding the higher XP spots, but I think you do make a good point there, Chris, as well.
What I'll be more interested in seeing is if any of our runners end up getting that 5th character, or if any of the 11 runners still in this race would potentially find that 5th character just to see who it was in the seed.
Yeah, with the way that the key items have fallen in this seed, unless I'm trying to think, like, unless like somebody has dived Luca Cave, like Seal Cave, and got like packaged for it, I just don't see a lot of, or Baron Key maybe. I don't see a lot of the runners getting that fifth character. I think this is going to be a four character seed for runners. Now, of course, we didn't see where if anybody did make a play like that. Like those bosses down at the Land of Seven Monsters seem really tough to try to fight. I wouldn't want to fight Octoman in the Assurus part. I wouldn't want to fight Kane Azo in the Leviathan spot. Like those are just like, if I can avoid them, I'm going to avoid them. So I think the Seal Cave seems like the only other option that we've got that might have led to that.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the potential that we could also find the hook that would open up the Upland Cave for our character. But once again, it's just finding where that key item might be. And at this point, we don't know who it potentially is or where it may be. So I see them really only grinding levels at this point instead of spending a ton of time trying to search for that hook or that Baron key.
Yeah, but the thing is, the thing is with the Catalite sort of way that we're playing today, the fact that in order to get that grind, like the boss fights on the moon are going to be probably one of the cheap ways that the people are going to be into that grind. And that could lead to that hook, that could lead to that package, that could lead to that bearing. And it's how much do the runners value that fifth character. Now, the other side of it is they have Rosa, they have Fusia, they have Cecil. And I think almost everyone is. Character I wouldn't.
No, and that's definitely what we'll have to see. But especially with these, the capability of these runners, I can't imagine that that's something that we would see as them hunting out that last character over just trying to get those.
Yeah, if their party was Porum, Edward, Yang, and another Edward or something like that, then they'd want another. But these characters that they have right now are pretty strong, and I think most of the runners, since these are very good runners that we're looking at tonight, I think they'll be comfortable handling the fight with just these characters.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing here is Rydia in our party, because Rydia can be a formidable Black Mage user. It's just she learns her spell so dreadfully late, and with our experience, location, and how much we're going to be able to get, we may not be able to see her get to that nuke spell at level 55. So it will be determined how viable she is for that Zeramis fight. But Simbu found a Sylph, which can be really nice for Rydia to use up until then.
Hey, I've long been a lover of this spell. If anybody's watched any other races that I do commentary for, you'll know that I preach the love of the Sylph. So I'm happy to see that. But I think that's a good point. I think Rydia is the character that is, I mean, she's the one of these four characters that the runners have that was featured in the reject percent flag set. So she's considered one of the lower tier, and that's exactly the reason that she learns that nuke at such a high level. The other thing is, if we're going to be reflecting any magic with her, you know, Lit 3, Fire 3, that still does a pretty decent chunk of damage. So that might be what the runners fall back on if they plan on utilizing her at all.
Yeah, we have Simbu in this battle with the red and blue dragons, and luckily Cecil is taking very, very little damage from them. So as long as they keep on attacking Cecil, he was fine. But now he will be the only one to actually gain experience from this battle. So while it will be a good amount of experience, his other characters will start to be left far behind.
Yeah, he probably has a piece of Dragoon armor that reduces damage from dragons. It looks like we might get yet another sampling of some Kakuro Village music as Aizen Tiana is heading down to the Magnetic Cave.
Aizen's actually been here once already. I know that Scala said that unfortunately his audio is a little off tonight, but unable to get through the battle, so I believe we'll be taking another chance at it.
I think I know what happened here. Aizen did the classic play of forgetting to flip the crystal after fighting the fight, so I had to walk back down there just to pick up the item. So that's what happened there.
Oh, that one's never fun either.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but at least he realized what happened and went back there and got it.
And we did see the adamant at Rubicante for Dusty Griff. Definitely not anything he wants to see. Of course, items are not really relevant at this point. It's all about the experience. So exits and immediately heals up and heads back in to attempt for more experience. So it's going to be interesting to see how our characters deal with their levels and at what level they feel comfortable heading on to that Zeramis fight. Right now, Fusoya is on like that borderline, because if he gets a bad roll, he can still take a wipe to a single Big Bang. But getting Cecil to that point where you can at least have Cecil and Fusoya going at Zeramis, and maybe a long drawn out fight, but it's definitely doable.
Well, and it also kind of depends, like, if we know we found that Artemis bow, I believe at least one of the runners found a heroine robe that could be equipped onto Rosa, and then we can have two characters get berserked and dealing decent amounts of damage during the Zeramis fight, have Fusoya on the healing duty, and have Rydia nerf the first Big Bang, and then let the Berserkers handle the rest. That could definitely work. That might be enough damage that they might only see one, maybe two Big Bangs. But that could be dependent on how many levels we get, what equipment, what kind of arrows we were able to find for Rosa. There's a lot of factors here.
Yeah, and we see Simbu setting up a lot of blinks on his characters. This will actually really help out with the counters from Behemoth. Doesn't seem so concerned with Rydia falling down, but definitely wants to get that experience for Fusoya and for Rosa. So the blinks will definitely help out here, being able to avoid two physical attacks.
Yeah, I think at this point, this makes it kind of apparent what Simbu's strategy for the Zeramis fight is going to be. It looks like he's going to try to roll with just the three characters primarily, and like if Rydia's able to contribute, that's nice, but that's not. I don't think that's going to be his priority. Yeah, we just did see in Dusty's equipment screen, Rosa is currently equipped with a heroine, so that'll be nice if he wants to use her as a damage dealer in the Zeramis fight as well. That'll be useful.
Yeah, now it is still possible that we may find a slightly better sword for Cecil as well. There are a few that can still fall into the T3 pool. So attacking some of these chests and hoping that one of the monster fights drops one of those better items is something that, you know, our runners wouldn't hate to see either.
I think the most interesting thing is once Dusty fights this Karate Man fight, he's going to get the Avenger Sword. He's also going to get the Legend Sword. And since he has the Adamant, he could turn the Adamant and the Legend Sword into an Excalibur. So that's another option that he's going to have as well.
Yeah, the Excalibur is a great item to have in these flags. The interesting thing is he going to spend the time to go down and turn that stuff in? Because, of course, you have the whole animation back from the moon and then going all the way underground just for the single weapon it will be interesting to see if he determines it's worth doing that or not.
If he fights another boss and finds the pass, I think it's a lot more likely to happen. But the Avenger is really nice too. So the fact that the Avenger and the Excalibur are basically both open to him at the same point kind of makes it so that the chances of us seeing the Excalibur play are a little bit lower, is my guess.
Yeah, and obviously still going to do some grinding here with the bosses. Of course, or he is using exit, so he may be making the immediate Excalibur play here.
Yeah, I think he's going to get that Excalibur. Yeah, back to the blue planet we go. That's very interesting.
Yeah, now Simbu would be able to do the same thing if he went back to that Rubicante fight, but that is all the way at the very first spot, at the Paladin spot, so that would be a little bit of a backtrack for him, and at this point he's just worried about gaining that experience, so he's checking a bunch of different chests and a bunch of different boss fights just to try to get this extra experience.
Yeah, and Nightdew also got that legend sword. Didn't make that play to the Pale Dim spot to fight the Rubicon spot, so didn't have that option open for the Excalibur too. So this is something that Dusty has access to that the rest of the runners won't. So those are the sorts of things that make the run interesting. Because there's so much of the seed that all the runners are going to see. So the question is, where are the differences in, and which of those differences is going to be what gives people the advantage?
Absolutely, and we saw an interesting item pop up on Simbu's side. It was the Drain Sword, and while it's not a great item, it can lead to the very, very, very slow victory against Zeramis, because Cecil would be able to heal quite a bit of damage from the Big Bangs to keep himself supported with all the healing. So that is a viable option, although it is a very, very long one.
Yeah, I think if this was a Catalite seed where he didn't have access to like Lucia and Rosa as healers, then I think that would be something that would be more memorable in the pocket. I think in this one he's not going to have to resort to that, but that is definitely a way that you can get through seeds, especially without white magic.
Yeah, actually, one of the other runners on one of the other channels in our second race, I believe, was the one he qualified in. Air actually used that strategy to use the Drain Sword into the Avenger just to deal the damage to Zero.
Yeah, Air definitely one of the runners who's been having a very good World Series. Air currently in 5th place overall in the runners. Now, on our screen, we have Dusty Grip, who's currently in 1st place in all with all the points for the World Series events. So these are very good runners that we've got going today.
Absolutely. So Dusty is returning to the moon, Excalibur in hand, or, well, it might not be in his hand yet, but Excalibur in inventory. So a lot of these fights will be a little bit expedited for him. We have Simbu still trying to grind out some of his levels, as well as Nightdew, and we have Aizen also on the moon, but Aizen has not made the play to the Dwarven Castle yet, so he is still without the crystal.
Yeah, he might be seeing that nobody is finished in this race yet, thinking that the crystal might be on the moon, which is definitely a place that you can check. Key items are available on the moon, and oftentimes that's where you find what you need.
Oh, never mind. Aizen must have picked up the crystal. I didn't see if his Rydia was growing or not, but our great restreamer Scala is saying that he did have the crystal, so he will be starting his grind as well. Now, none of our runners actually went over to Cape Muhammad. There is a boss battle over there as well that they could deal with. But typically, you want to avoid that one unless you're really uncomfortable with your levels because it takes so long to dive just down to that boss.
Yeah, it's a couple. There's only one key item check in there, one boss. It's kind of a nice if you were able to find a siren, then it's a little bit more enticing because it's a lower walk to the floor where you've got two King Ryu fights, and you can get the boss and do a King Ryu ride at the same time. Since I don't think any of our runners have found a siren on this seed. I think that's kind of why they've kind of avoided that spot.
Now, an interesting item, and I missed it on Simbu's side, but we just saw it on Night Dues. One of those trap chests actually had a ribbon in it, so that is actually a really nice item for our runners to find.
Eternal Newbie asking about the Avengers, about getting multiple effects on one. Now, I know the whatever weapon that you have, if you switch to it, it gets the bonuses. I don't think it stacks if you have multiple weapons, but you might want to ask that in the Discord, where there's a lot of people who've done a lot of studying on this game. You might even want to add Simbu on that because he studies a lot about this. Because I'm not sure. I don't think it stacks with multiple weapons like that, but I don't want to say for sure because I don't know 100% on that one.
So we have Eisen going up against going up against Asura right now, and has his Rose of Berserk, so we'll just be looking to do whatever possible, and with the wall up, doesn't have to really worry about Asura harming anything. It's just a matter of then doing the damage output.
Yeah, and also almost conveniently, I don't know about healing up Rosa there. I kind of like leaving the characters in low HP so that Cecil can cover him, unless he's berserked Cecil.
He didn't have Berserk Cecil, but now he does.
So while our runners are fighting bosses and trap chests for this grind, I think I want to give a shout out to the people behind the scenes too. The wonderful Scala Kitty is doing our restreaming today, and we've got Swanee Wrath doing the tracking, so thank them. And I also want to thank everybody over at the Random Mania for letting us have our races over on their channel. It's very nice for us to the partnership that we have between the two of them to have their platform and our race.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're here visiting and you don't already, also follow the other two sites that we work with for these restreams of the final tables, RPG Limit Break and twitch.tv/free enterprise, because every Friday it's actually a 3-stream multi-stream of 12 racers at each final table. So it's more than just these 4 that you see on screen, and they're all being restreamed. So definitely make sure you follow all of them.
Yeah, and there's still a couple more events in this World Series. Starting this weekend, we've got the qualifiers for the Edward Percent race, and the final table will be a week from today. And then the week after that, we've got the 2v2 event. So still a lot of things happening in this exciting World Series event. Soft Up Swab with the 3 channels, whoever finishes first wins. Yeah, that's correct. And those other 2 channels are running this exact same seed that we're seeing these 4 run. And of all of them, we still don't have anybody who's finished this yet.
Absolutely, but it looks like Simbu is right about at the point that he wants to be to go ahead and take on Zeramis. Rosa just passed the 2000 HP mark, which is typically where you are starting to become a little more comfortable going into that fight. So both Fusoya and Rosa in relatively good range can still fall to a really bad roll on a Big Bang, but very, very good range now going into that fight.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting. As we see Simbu in the Lunar, but is still fighting the Trap Chest for more experience. It's going to be interesting to see if Simbu feels confident enough to just head right on to Zeramis afterwards, or if he goes back for a safety save before the fight.
I'd imagine with the amount of time that he's invested in the grinding that he will take the safety save. The worst thing you want is one of those bad rolls, or a simple miss menu to where you're ending up having to play catch up, and it may just not be doable. So at least in my opinion, I would always take the safety save. But I've also have had bad experiences with taking bad wipes. So we'll see what he elects to do.
Yeah, I mostly agree with you, but that is definitely a time commitment to walk back out of all those floors of the Lunar Core and then walk all the way back down them. So it might be like Simbu might think, my way to win is to go now, and if I wipe on Zeramis, I'm not going to win this seed anymore. So that could be what he thinks. I'm not saying that's what he's going to do, but that could be the other side of it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is, as it gets later and later, runners have to be concerned with who may be at Zeramis at this point. They know the capabilities of the other people that they're racing against, so they may end up making a decision based on, okay, no one's finished, I can get there, I may be able to finish first, and may make a call that ends up being a lot riskier than it may need to be.
Simbu getting a little bit unlucky, the heat ray hitting right before Cecil finished off that last red dragon, and so Rosa did not get the experience for that fight, so that's going to be rough. Looks like Aizen Teyama did decide to fight that evil wall that Simbu wanted to avoid earlier.
And while Simbu is fighting what seems to be possibly his last trap chest, we do have Dusty making a beeline for Zeramis. So
yeah,
Dusty
he's not fighting. He's not opening checks. That's for sure.
But yeah, Dusty and Simbu will be meeting up at the Zeramis fight almost at the same exact time.
Yeah, we get to ask that question: whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
And Simbu is looking, but Simbu does not have any arrows for Rosa.
Ran out of arrows, man. Just things are piling up on Simbu. He had a very nice lead earlier, but just things adding up.
So we find the pan on Naitu's side behind that Elements fight at Agapagu's spot.
Yeah, that would be a nice turn in if
And we've got Hades Mist.
Yeah, a little Disney for y'all here tonight.
Once again, all these wonderful Z sprites, as well as the palettes that you see on the characters, done by our wonderful restreamers called Kitty. So, shout outs. And I didn't even realize how high Dusty had gotten his HP. He is in very good range as well. So, not too much difficulty going to be here. Plus, he has the Excalibur, which will make this fight a lot more bearable for him.
Yeah, really like Dusty's play overall in this thing. That was rough was he beat his head against that Valve a couple of times, but other than that, all the rest of the play that he's made has been very efficient, very well done. Got to the 10 key items, got the crystal at the right time. I mean, luck was on his side when it came to he was able to put in that search over at the dwarf castle right at the right time to coincide with when he wants to go to the moon anyways. So everything went really well for Dusty. Everything went well for Simbu too until he just went to the moon a little too aggressively and just wasn't able to take care of what was going on up there with just the Cecil, Rydia, and Rosa. And unsurprisingly, Rydia being taken down by the big bangs.
Over on Aizen's side, he was able to complete the evil wall, and we did see Excalibur over there, so not having to make the trip back down one room over from where the Legend Sword and the Avenger Sword were, Excalibur was sitting.
That's very interesting too.
So it seems like both of our runners are steadily taking on Hades Mist here. Of course, only having one person dealing most of the damage, it will take a little bit longer, but luckily do not have to worry about things like the black holes, since the Avenger Sword is pretty much a failsafe against those.
Yeah, it makes it so that the black hole is basically a free turn with this. Yeah, it looks like right now these big bangs are close, but not quite enough to take out Lucia. That's going to be the scary thing, because we're like right on the edge of what Lucia is able to take.
Yeah, the other big thing here is if you're looking at the damage output, Dusty Griff's damage output for the most part has been pretty much double what Simbu's was, so getting that little bit of extra damage will make his fight go a little bit quicker as well.
And as these two runners are in the final fight, we do have our first place finisher. Rivers McCowan has finished in first place at a time of 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 30 seconds. So GG's to Rivers.
Yeah, really good time on this. A bunch of runners, I'm sure, not too far behind, including two of our runners here. Now, even though Rivers did finish in first, this is the World Series final table, and points are awarded to not only first, but all the people who finish. So, finishing in second and third is still just as important, especially for someone like Dusty, who has a pretty good point total so far.
Yeah, as long as nothing super crazy happens during this fight, looks like Dusty is set up to have a pretty good finish here, and probably going to retain the lead. But he does have to finish out this fight first. It looks like on Simba's screen, Lucia did take a wipe. Luckily, Rosa does know life 2 to bring Lucia back up before the next season.
Yeah, it gets a much nicer roll there, so Fu left with quite a bit of health. Some of the worst stuff is actually when the roll doesn't kill Fu, but it leaves him with like 1 or 2 HP, and then he just wipes to the sap anyway. But with the 2 healers and everything, it's not so much a matter of if they're going to complete, but a matter of when. So just a lot of damage output. We still have Aizen and Nightdew doing some grinding. It seems that Nightdew is pretty close to where he would need to be for the Zeramus fight. Rosa at 2290, Fusoya at 2089. It looks like he may be trying to get Rydia to that level 55.
Yeah, Naito has really been managing Rydia a lot more than Simbu and Dusty did. So that might mean that he wants to be able to utilize her to just increase the damage output by reflecting. Ideally nuke, but if not that, then level 3 magic to do more damage to kids. And we do have a second place finisher, Error, finished in second place at 1 hour 43 minutes and 19. GG's to Error.
Yeah, another strong showing for Error. I know Error personally, and I know, like, early on in this, he wasn't too confident in how he would do overall in the World Series, but has done quite a lot in terms of placing and everything else over the past few weeks, so good game to him.
With really only 3 characters that Simbu and Dusty are fighting with, you can see how this is just like a war of attrition against Zero this one.
Yeah, really. Now they do have the option with Usoya to. Yeah, they have the option to use nukes, but with the way the team is set up, his healing is a lot more beneficial. So that's why we see them only attacking with Cecil at this point. We do have our third place finisher, who is Moon Blaze Wolf, 144.27.
GG's to Blaze. Another runner has been doing good. We have a Meteo sighting on Dusty's screen. So Dusty is almost there.
One more hit here from Cecil, and that will do it.
There we go. And we have Dusty Grip finished 4th place overall. 1 hour, 44 minutes, and 39 seconds. So GG's to Dusty. And we'll see if Dusty wants to come in.
We have Simbu still going strong on his fight. Well, it looks like Naito is taking his save. He may be ready to make his play for Zeramis, while Aizen is just finishing up his leveling. It looks like he's abandoning Rydia as well, just getting those extra few levels here for his other character. And there we have the Meteo for Simbu. And that will do it for Simbu. Simbu is our 5th place finisher with a time of 1:45.29.
And we'll try to get both Simbu and Dusty a friend this year. We might get them both at the same time, but at any rate, I think we may have Simbu.
Hey guys.
Hey, GG on your run today.
Thank you.
So, of the 4 runners that we saw, it looks like you were the first to try to make a dive to the moon. It turns out that other than that one fight against Yang, that might have been what kind of bit you a little bit. You had to go back to the blue planet. What do you feel about that?
I mean, I took a gamble, and I was hoping to get a couple easier bosses. I knew that King and Queen Eblon were still out there. It's just that most of the bosses ended up in a spot where they were fairly strong. Except for Yang, of course, that was the only freebie. I did get the Avenger out of it. Unfortunately, I spent so much time checking everything else and wiping to chests because I thought the crystal armor would do a little bit more or something. And kind of made it a little bit more difficult. I think going to Eblon first, I mean, not Eblon, but Earth Crystal first would have been a really good ideal, but that's whatever.
So it looks like this is one of your best finishes World Series. Is this a flag set that you feel really confident in?
I feel fairly confident. I was a little bit annoyed when the seed decided to literally put a roadblock everywhere I go. Oh, here's Golbez, and guess what? He's going to virus your Iridia every single time. Oh,
Yeah.
here's Bahamut. Guess what? You're going to have to try this fight 3 times because you're just 200 damage short. Just wasn't being very kind. But I'm sure most people had those problems.
And are you planning on planning in the Edwardford set?
I'm able to play in the one tomorrow morning. I don't know if I'll be able to play at any of the others.
Okay, well, good luck for you then. Do you have any other final thoughts about this race tonight?
No. I kind of glad that we finally got a kind of tough Catalite. This one, it wasn't tough as much as it was rude. It was, oh, there's plenty of things you can do. It's just that there's only going to be one correct path, and we're going to hurt you every time you do anything except what we tell you to do.
All right. Well, good luck in any of. If you do any more than tomorrow morning, good luck then, and then any other Edward% races you have this one. And GG's tonight.
Thank you.
And I believe we're also joined by Dusty Griff. Dusty, GG's on your run tonight.
Hey, GG's. Thank you.
So, how did you feel about that run overall?
It was a fun seed. I love root seeds. And they're always super enjoyable. So there's a lot of I didn't expect to be trying Valvalis at Town of Baron Inn like 3 times, especially in that spot. But I was determined to kill that. But a little frustrating because my controller died. You may have just seen me just sitting outside Avalon Castle for like a solid 20 or 30 seconds.
Well, we were speculating that you were trying to.
Yeah. My controller died and I had to switch controllers on the fly, and it was kind of threw me off for a little while there, so it was a little bit of a pain. But other than that scene was fun. It was really enjoyable, actually.
I will say for a dead controller, you managed to do a pretty good finish. So
Yeah.
So did you are you going to keep this up? Or are you going to be playing Edward% as well?
Oh yeah, we'll be playing some Edward% tomorrow for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
So this the whole Catalite event, you like the seeds. Was this your favorite flag set of the World Series, or is there something else that you like to keep it for?
Yeah, this would be my favorite set most of all. This one in Forge probably, and surprisingly Giant I started liking quite a bit after practicing it a bunch. But this one in Forge are probably just because they're more standard-ish sets, and this one where it's a bit more of a challenge set. I like trying to think outside the box to see what you have to do next and everything.
All right. You have it?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'd be interested to see what other people did for strats on that seed, because like I had ideas in my head. I'd be interested to see where people got roadblock, because I'm sure it's like kind of different spots. Like my roadblock for no reason really was I just kept trying Valvalis. Right. But I heard Simbu saying he died at Bahamut a couple times, which I could totally see if he didn't get the couple levels beforehand. I got a little lucky because I had a few levels from Dark Imps. But...
Well, did you have any other final thoughts while you're here?
That's about it. Thank you both for commentating, and to the Restream team and to everyone for organizing this, and GG's to the other racers.
All right. Well, GG's, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right. Our 2 other runners are currently on their Zerma's fights. Rydia is down for both of them, as we have seen so much tonight. So pretty much the same strategy, just equipping Cecil with the ability to do damage and just taking it slowly but steadily to get through. 4,800 damage for Aizen, which is a nice damage output here. And we do see Nightdew actually using Nuke from Fu to deal a little bit extra damage. Does have to worry about the counter nukes, but with 2 healers, should not be as big of an issue as it could be.
Yeah, and we have a couple more finishers. Bakashonovi has finished in 6th place at 1 hour 52 minutes and 23 seconds. And Chokasura finished in 7th place at 1 hour 52 minutes and 32 seconds. And then Swimmy Leone at 8th place at 1 hour 52 minutes and 56 seconds. So GG's to those runners as well.
And we do see Fu wipe to that Big Bang after getting hit with the nuke before. Instead of using Life 2 immediately, Night Dew is electing to continue to heal with Rosa. Now, Rosa's HP will allow her to just run as the soul healer and not have much issue at all. So having Fu down is not necessarily a bad thing for Night Dew at this point, especially because her Cure 3s will be able to suffice for healing both Rosa and Cecil now.
Yeah, and Fusia has such a limited MP pool to get the healing, and especially if he was using Nuke as well, that Fu might have been just about out of gas anyways, and so just rolling with the Berserk Cecil and Rosa for healing is sometimes all that you need. I mean, it's going to get the job done. It's a slower fight this way, but Night Dew is not in any immediate danger at all.
Now, unfortunately for Aizen, though, Cecil gets hit by the nuke and immediately followed by a Big Bang. Cecil is down, so having to spend the time to life to him, and then Hades followed up with a virus, very, very close to a wipe there. So the fact that Aizen is able to get out of this and at least heal up a little bit and possibly get the full heal before the next Big Bang goes off is quite incredible.
Yeah, luckily for Aizen, after that virus hits, then it's time for the black hole. So he got a little bit of time to regroup there, get his party healed up, and he's still in this.
For sure, and we do have our 9th place finisher, Supremacy, finishing in a time of 1 hour 54 minutes and 51 seconds.
And we did have one forfeit earlier in the race. Couch 23 did forfeit, so I believe with 9th, I think these are the last 2 runners tonight with Night Dew and Aizen. So
yes,
that kind of shows you like the times from the first to these last 2 people who are in the last fight right now are so close. That just shows how good all these runners are tonight.
Yeah, and I would actually be rather interested in if any runner, especially with these times, I highly doubt it that if any runner found that 5th character. So I'm almost tempted to just go back and play the seed myself just to find out who that 5th character was.
Yeah, if this was a qualifier with like 50 runners racing, I would be sure that somebody found it, you know. But in this, where there's only 12 people running and they're trying to be as efficient as possible, it just doesn't seem likely that anyone found the 5th.
So my guess with how long these battles have been going on and the damage that's been outputted, both of our runners are getting relatively close to that media phase. Of course, that's one of the most welcome sights in Free Enterprise, is seeing that media phase. So we're slowly getting there, and once we do, we'll know what order our last 2 runners will be in. And as Rex mentioned a little bit earlier, we do have some Ember percent starting tomorrow. We have 2 races tomorrow and 2 races on Sunday at noon and 8 p.m. both days. And they will all be restreamed over at twitch.tv/freeenterprise. So you can definitely check out some of our featured runners over there with some excellent commentary from the community.
It looks like both these runners are now kind of in that boat of Cecil and Rosa left. And both of them have had to use an elixir to restore even Rosa's MP. That just kind of shows how long this fight can be when you're just relying on one attacker and one healer. I mean, I think they're both going to be able to finish still, but it's tough. It really is.
Yeah, and we do see the medio phase here for Eisen, so he's into his last few final attacks from Cecil, as well as Night 2, so this finish might actually be really close here.
There we go.
There we do see, we do see the flash for Eisen. Finishes in 10th place, 1:59.12 as his official SRL time. And Night Dew's not going to be too far behind here, only a few more attacks to
And there's the looks like we get the flash on Night Dew. Looks like Eisen is not able to come in view, but looks like we might get Night Dew. I think we've got Night Dew now. Night Dew. GG on your run.
What a mess, but thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you were at the end. It looks like you were in a position very, like, pretty much a safe fight, but a slow one with that Cecil Rose. Is not able to come in. You, but
to be fair, it wasn't what I was going for, but it was when I had so much trouble with the double red D chest. I'm thinking, okay, I know I have one more grind fight in the red blue, but it's like I really don't like taking that one because Rosa didn't have white, Rydia didn't have nuke, we didn't have basically anything I really wanted for that Zeramis fight. I mean, you know, after Fu ran out of MP and Rydia really wasn't doing much, and as kind of evidenced when she fire threed herself after a black hole, and it was just like, well, here we are, let's do it.
Well, what did you think about the seed overall?
It was really interesting at the beginning. I'm thinking at that Bahamut Mount Ordeals, I'm like, oh no, I threw that Zeus Rage at, I can't remember what I threw that Zeus Rage at, but it's like, okay, I need to find something that gets me by this, and you know, found the quick black sword. I don't know how many people like ran into that wall and either went elsewhere or, you know, powered through that.
I believe you were the only one who found the black sword while Cecil was still a Dark Knight, at least to the ones that we saw. Now, are you planning on playing in the Edward percent this weekend?
For lack of my sanity, yes.
All right. Well, good luck in there. And did you have any fun tonight?
Yeah, good game to everybody else. I mean, there was this, I think everybody was really, I mean, as evidenced by I finished like last among everybody, and honestly, I was like on the moon and grind when, you know, the first people started going through. So it was a really good race. I'm going to assume to watch that, and yeah, GG to everybody, and yeah, that was definitely a seed to take Catalite out on.
Yeah, I agree. It was a very good race. Everybody was very close at the end. So, GG's, and thank you for joining us tonight, and good job of making it final tape.
Thank you very much.
All right, take care. So, Krim, we had a very fun race that we were watching tonight. How do you like it?
I can tell you that me personally, I enjoy watching the Catalites a lot more than playing them, but uh, definitely just a good showing all around. I mean, roadblocks one after another, as all of our runners alluded to in their commentary, and they just stuck with them and were able to, they knew their strategies, they knew how to get through the fights, and were able to do so. And for all of our finishers to finish within 15 minutes of each other, or right about there, is just a testament to how good all these runners are. So definitely enjoyable, and I can't wait to see what Edward Percent brings us.
Absolutely. I do also. I did like it as well that all the roadblocks seem to be different for every. So that was a really interesting thing to see as well. And you saw everybody talk about a different place where it was really tough for them. So that was really cool to see. So everybody join us this weekend for the Edward Percent runs. The qualifiers will be on the Free Enterprise Twitch channel. Go ahead and check us out there. Make sure to give all the runners that you saw tonight, Dusty Griff and Aizen Tayama, Night Dew, and Simbu. Give them a follow. We've got Scala Kitty, the Princess of Pixels herself, doing the restream. Give her a follow. And Swanee Wrath 11 on the tracking. And for Crimson Avix, I'm Rex Raoul, and I hope you have a